Hey guys, it's me, Pachan here. We're back home from our latest adventure. As I'm speaking, it is the 24th of November, and we just got back from razor clamming out by Copalas Beach. That was really cool and a really interesting experience, but I kind of just wanted to start this video by kind of like talking about another adventure that happened very recently that I haven't been able to post the clips up yet. So we're gonna go over that one and this most recent one, because unfortunately my very distracted mind didn't remember to either A, carry my phone with me on certain instances, or B, remember to record anything, and C, I was with family, and out of respect for my family, as well as just enjoying their presence, I just didn't do a lot of filming. So the clips that follow this explanation will probably be really disjointed, but I'm going to do my best to include clips and some pictures if possible. I'm still learning this free-to-use program, so I'm not sure how successful I'll be, but it feels pretty familiar to other stuff I have been trained in, so I'm feeling okay. But anyways, so like a couple weeks prior, we went to Tuano State Park to try out my very early overlanding setup. In my car, I have a newer car now because my last one reached its limit, or at least the limit that I was willing to take it to, because keeping that thing running was costing me more than that car was ever worth, which is part of the course for owning a car, period, but this was like a whole nother level. In any case, at the time, my new car, I just set it up with a deep sleeping mattress, as well as a sleeping bag from REI, packed some easy to carry goods, a stove, just some dry goods for the most part, a stove, and then a change of clothes, stuff like that. Just like basic gear for a one night camping session, which is what we were doing anyways. It's not like we were going out into the middle of the woods or anything like that. We were at a campsite, but we wanted to try it out and see how I would feel actually using the setup versus just imagining it. And it went about as I expected, except for a couple things. One, my dog, just not used to the whole situation, would not go to sleep. She just spent the night staring out of various windows and climbing all over me to try and stare out of various windows, and you're gonna see a very frustrated clip of me half asleep complaining about her in a minute here. But aside from that, though, the day before, fantastic. We got to the park, and we had learned that the water was cleared for oyster harvesting, so I was very excited to try and find an oyster. I've never seen oysters in the wild, or at least if I have, I've either A, never noticed, or B, just never been like looking for them. But was very excited to see some of that. However, we had some time before the tide was going to be low, and so we went hiking for a bit to first off see the forest, because it was a very lovely state park. It's not the biggest state park, but it's very beautiful. And while we were there, I wanted to look for mushrooms. It was late in the season, so I wasn't expecting much, but I wanted to at least try because I wanted to learn more about the environment, and I also wanted to practice those skills that I had gone to class for. And remember last time when I couldn't find anything but fake chanterelles? Well, this time we saw what looked like a little path up the hill, just like on the first bend of the, just like close to the beginning of the trail. And I was like, I'm getting a feeling here. I always go after what just strikes me in the gut, but I'm also paying attention to the surroundings. I'm like, there's some conifers here. I can't quite identify them yet because I'm still learning, but this is a good feeling. My dad had pointed it out, so I decided to follow it up and see what I could find, and I found a couple different mushrooms I couldn't identify. But the fact that there were mushrooms got me excited, so I kept climbing up and up and up. My dad said he would meet me on the trail further up because the trail apparently cuts back and he would have been by me. And I did hear him call out for me, and I called back, but we couldn't see each other. So my dad started doubling back just to make sure that he could see me climb back down, because it was a fairly steep slope. And in the meantime, while he was working his way back down, I kept looking around because I like to take my time with these things. I checked out some of the nearby mushrooms. I climbed a bit higher. I got near this giant bush. Like, it was just a massive wall of bush. I didn't know it at the time, but it was a huckleberry bush. I'll get into that in a little bit later. But I get to this bush, right? And I see something under the bush that's like, huh, that's weird. That looks like it could be another mushroom. There have been tons of mushrooms all over the forest so far, so I wasn't shocked that there might be another one, but I had like a weird feeling about it. At this point, my dad was at the bottom of the hill, and he was looking up. He called up to me, and I saw him down there, and I didn't want them to just wait there for me, because I'm still just not used to having like groups of people around just waiting for me to do things, and I don't like wasting people's time. It's just a me thing, I guess. But anyways, I decide, well, before I leave, I might as well go up and see what that mushroom is, if nothing else, just to see what else is growing up here, because they're cool. And I go up, and I kneel by the mushroom, and it's this big orange chanterelle, or at least, at the time, I thought it was a chanterelle. And I got excited. I'm like, oh, wow, that's a really big one. Even if it's not one, I'm going to take it so I can go and identify it, because I didn't have my books on me at the time. And so my field guides were still tucked in my backpack or in my car, and the field guide I wanted to use was in my car. And so I plucked one, and then I noticed another one, and that one definitely looked like a chanterelle for sure. And I was like, okay, that's gotta be one, and this one looks very, very much like it, so I'm gonna guess this is a chanterelle. And then I plucked that one, and then that's when I noticed another one, and another one, and another one, so I filled up a small bag of these chanterelles, and I left a few more because I don't want to take them all. And then I started to make my way down to my dad and my stepmom, who both noticed that I had only mentioned that I had found one little baby chanterelle. That I forgot to mention that on the way up, I found one little baby chanterelle. It was very small, it was like this. But once at the top, like, suddenly I was coming down with this big bag of mushrooms, and I show them, and I'm like, I'm not positive, but I think these are all chanterelles. And I'm very sad because I didn't have my phone on me the whole time. It had gone with the jacket I left with my dad, so I couldn't get a clip of that for you guys to see what I had found, because I was so excited. I was like, oh my god, guys, we found it. And because I was so sad that the last episode we didn't find any. So it was really cool to find them. It was really sad that I didn't have my phone, but it was really cool that I found them. And so we kept on hiking, and then the tide was going out. So we went back down towards the beach this time. And I took a moment while they got some stuff out of the car to go check on my guides in the car, and I did confirm that they were chanterelles. Now at this point, I'm actually not sure if I did take a video. I think I took a small video celebrating the tiny chanterelle, because this was before I identified them. I was like, we're gonna do some other stuff, but I did find one. Here's the one, the little one. I forgot to take a video, go figure, of all the large ones that that I found, but I did take pictures, so hopefully you guys will see that in a moment here. But we went down to the shore, and we started looking for oysters. We quickly realized that boots at the time would have probably been a good investment, because the oysters that were, alive, for one, tended to be a little bit further out into the water. There were some that were right on the edge of the water where it was at its lowest. So we had gone down, and we misidentified one that I think in hindsight was a live oyster, and we put it back. But we did find one that was fairly large. It was legal limit, or within the legal minimum of size to harvest. So we decided to try that. Now, I've never shucked an oyster in my life. Neither has my dad. But he wanted to give it a try. So he helped me get the oyster started, and we had to actually take some time to, with very low signal, try to pull up a couple videos of wild oyster shucking specifically, because every other video we had seen made it look much easier than it turned out to be. And it turns out that wild oysters, because of the way they form and they grow, can be trickier to shuck. Either way, we found the best way to enter was on the hinge of the oyster. So a lot of the advice was like trying to go, on around the side a little bit to get in there, but we had zero success doing that. But he started off the first oyster, and then I took it from there to open it up. And we, in Washington, it's state law that when you shuck an oyster, you gotta toss the shells back along the same tide line that you found them at, because that's where baby oysters will grow, and we want more oysters in the future, right? So there was no taking these oysters in their shell to like grill later or anything like that. If we do want to do oysters in a shell, there are ways to acquire them at like meat and seafood markets, butchers, or at the grocery store and stuff like that. But I'm not too interested in that. No, I did not try an oyster raw. I have no interest in trying an oyster raw. To me, being able to shuck an oyster was more of a curiosity, and I was interested in cooking them more than I was in trying them raw. But I know it's a very fun activity for people who do enjoy raw oysters. In my case, we shucked the oyster, we cast the shells back, and we put the shucked oyster meat into a different container for me to cook later. And so after that, we went back and we did another hike with Luna alongside. Luna was kind of being not very nice because there were dogs that would keep coming in. But it started to get late, so we went back to camp because it was getting really dark very quickly nowadays. And I cooked up the oysters. I breaded them up and I pan-fried them, which is just like my typical go-to for a first try. Anything breaded and fried will taste good. But being unused to cooking wild foods to begin with, starting with that simple recipe was just really fun. And we used some seasoned breadcrumbs to just give it some more flavor. I mixed the flour with some lemon garlic seasoning as well to just, again, add some more flavor. And then I fried them all up. They were about like this big after they were all fried up. You could eat them in just a couple bites, and we had them with tartar sauce. Oh, and then I cooked up a little bit of the chanterelles. I didn't want to cook them all up that night because I just wanted to take them home and make something with them. And so cooked a few of the chanterelles. I forgot to dry saute them, so they came out kind of bland. But I saved the rest to take home. And then the next day, while we were hiking before leaving, because we just wanted to get one more in, we encountered a family walking ahead of us, and their son was just not enjoying hiking. Like, he was a toddler, to be fair, and he just didn't want to deal with it, so he was just throwing a fit. He didn't want to go to his mom, and his dad was carrying him for a little bit, but he got a bit tired of doing that, so he's trying to get this kid to walk, and he goes, "Hey, look, your mom's got huckleberries for you." And I heard that a couple times, but I thought that this mom, for whatever reason, just like packed huckleberries as a snack, and she just, like a little plastic container, and just has them for her kid, which is cool, but I didn't think anything of it. And then my dad said he saw the dad pluck some of the blackberries on the bush and give them to his kid and call them huckleberries. And that's kind of when we took a pause and we looked around and we realized that all the bush that had been surrounding this trail is full of these little blackberries. And I took out my field guide because I had them this time, Pacific Harvest specifically, and we compared it to the huckleberry species in there, and it turned out to be evergreen huckleberry. So we took some time to try some of the berries. Now, I don't think my dad got any of the ripe ones because he complained about them being tart, and he doesn't like tart berries, but the ones I tasted had like kind of a floral sweetness to them. There were a couple that I did taste that did come off sour, but I couldn't tell the difference. Like, I couldn't tell you what the difference is between one that's like, I'm gonna assume underripe versus one that is ripe. It was a really cool experience just to give them a try. We didn't eat like a whole bunch or anything like that, and I didn't take any home, but it was just like a novel experience, and it was really, really cool to connect the dots with a species I had read about to one that was there that we just wouldn't have even noticed. We also found a potential lobster mushroom. I did not take that one home. It was massive, though. It was freaking huge. And then we headed home after that. It was a nice trip. It was probably not my shortest storytelling session, but it was a good time. And I hope you guys enjoy what little I was able to provide in terms of context for that. But anyways, after that, my uncle and my cousin have come over for the Thanksgiving holidays, and this video probably won't be up till maybe after that, knowing my luck with how busy and sometimes just tired I am. But this past weekend, we ended up going to Copalis Beach, or Copalis. I'm actually not sure how it's pronounced. But we stayed at Pacific Beach State Park this time. And when we got there, so freaking foggy. Now, keep in mind, we left like basically after I was done working for the day. So by the time we got there, it was also just pitch dark and it was misting. It wasn't necessarily raining. It was just like a really heavy mist, like a mist that is as close as you could get to raining without being rain. That's just how wet it was. And then parts of the park were flooded, but the park itself was just really full of people. And so we got there, we parked, we set up the campers. My uncle and cousin stayed in a yurt, and then my dad and my stepmom stayed in their camper van, and I stayed in my little camper car. And at this point, I had brought a different blanket to act as a liner for my sleeping bag. I think I'm just gonna get an actual liner for my sleeping bag, even though they're kind of pricey. Just to see if I would feel more comfortable on it. And I mean, the blanket did help. It was very soft and comfy. The sleeping bag worked fine. I stayed warm, even though the night got really, really cold. Somewhere in the 30s, I want to say. Or at least that's what it felt like every time I was outside. But I was pretty okay in my car. My dog stayed with my dad, mostly because we were trying to see if she would sleep better if she was in a place where she just couldn't see outside. Or maybe like feel like she's on a normal bed, because that's what they have in there. It's just like a solid bed in there. And she slept fine, like a brick, which I suspected she would. She didn't have as many distractions and it's quieter in there. But she stayed there for that trip, and I'm gonna work on my setup a little bit more to make sure I can accommodate her more comfortably without also risking my dry goods, which I didn't mention that, but Luna did discover my dry goods on the last trip and tore open a bag of flour in my car. So that was very fun to clean up. But next day comes and we're there for razor clamming. And the thing about it is the legal harvesting time for razor clams isn't until afternoon, with the lowest tide being at night. Essentially, it was around 7:30 it was expected at around 7:30 p.m. when we went to go do it. So we had like this early portion of the day to kill, and I had also conveniently forgotten my dog's food, so I had to find a nearby place that sold dog food, and luckily there were nearby pet stores. And so while everybody else kind of took care of their morning routine, mine was already done because I clean up fast. So I, in efforts to make sure my dog gets fed, I went to go find the dog store that was nearby. I just put it on Google Maps and I went off to go find it. And as I'm driving down this road, this state road, there's woods on either side of me, and then there's the beach, and I'm crossing like a bridge. So far, I think nothing of it. And then suddenly I enter this place called Seabrook, and it's like I come out of the woods and suddenly I'm in manicured seaside village town. And it's so densely packed with buildings when just a couple streets over, it looks like any typical remote American town or area where you've got like a gas station on one corner, maybe a tiny grocery here or there, maybe like a couple houses acres apart. From that to like townhouses and vacation rentals, one after the other, in this really like perfect little town within which there was like a downtown shopping center going on. It reminded me a lot of some of the apartment complexes I used to see when I lived in Florida, where you have these huge apartments buildings, but they're starting to build them more frequently with shopping centers mixed in the middle there, and townhouses above the shops and stuff like that, just integrating more shops with the actual neighborhood. That's what it felt like, right? And so I stop and I go to the pet store, which at this point is a Salty Dog, or the Salty Dog, which, by the way, I recommend you give them a visit. I'm not sure if I met the store's owner, but Anne, you were very sweet. I had a very enjoyable time working with you to get my dog some good food. And and just to get her a jacket going so that she was going to be comfortable, dry and warm as well while out in that very chilly beach. So thanks again. I got her food. I headed back. I told my family, hey, there's this really weird town just like a road over, and I don't think they understood what I was getting at first. So like Sarah went on her run, and then I offered to take my cousin and my uncle to the town so that we could just hang out there for a little bit, check it out. I forget what my cousin ended up doing, but it ended up just being me and my uncle. Me and my uncle, because my dad and my cousin went to go find Sarah because she went on a run. Anyways, me and my uncle go to this town, and we get there, and he's like, yeah, this place is a little weird. Like, it's pretty, but there's just something off-putting about it. And so I tell Dad where we are, and we're wandering around the town. We're doing a little bit of shopping. My uncle helped me out with a couple of things, but we checked out most of the stores and just walked, had some coffee, and talked and caught up on different things because it's been a long time. Then my dad and my cousin and my stepmom eventually show up. And again, they agree. It's like, this is a little bit strange. This is a little bit weird. It's like just this town in the middle of nowhere, like this really built up town. It turns out, so it was started by like two people that just decided to build a lot of houses in this. They bought a lot of land. They built a lot of houses in it and incorporated it into like an actual town in Washington over the last 20 years. So like this town is barely 20 years old. And I'm just sitting here like, I wonder if this is what it genuinely felt like to start a new town in older America. Granted, I can't speak to that experience at all, but the feeling of just like all these buildings are new, there's a lot of them might still be vacant, or lots might still be vacant, but like people are moving in and stuff like that. And then just like the whole story behind it, just, I don't know. Seabrook is a pretty place. Seabrook is a cool place. It has some great shops and decent all-around prices. Definitely a lot of material focused on like catering to what I have to imagine is the summer surfing crowd. But also, I feel like it would make a good horror movie set. I don't know if I can explain it any better than that. It's just too pretty. So after we finish up there, we get some pizza, have ourselves some lunch. We make sure we've got stuff for dinner because obviously if razor clamming doesn't work out, we still need to eat, you know? And I wasn't expecting to make razor clams the whole meal anyway. But we head out to the beach finally, because that's when we find out that we could actually go there earlier. It's just the best harvesting time is like an hour or so before the lowest point of the tide. And we park, we head out to the beach, and it's already getting dark. It's like 4:30, I think, when we get to the beach. It's already getting dark, but my cousin and I are determined to try and find some razor clams while there's still some light. And we brought headlamps anyways, just because we knew it was going to be dark anyways. So we start heading out to the water. We come across a bunch of these little holes in the sand, and we're excited because we think, okay, maybe this is like where the razor clams are. My cousin tries one, and he pulls up a shrimp. A lot of these holes, spoiler alert, are just full of shrimp. We're essentially in a band of the beach where shrimp just really, really like to nest. There's just a lot of shrimp there. And then I give it a try, but I came into the sand at an odd angle, and I wasn't expecting how hard it would be to pull up the tool. So I ended up pulling up in an awkward position. So newsflash, kids, whenever you hear about proper lifting posture, please follow that advice, because I injured my back at that point, and I injured it pretty badly. Like, I could almost not bend over after that. I was just in a lot of pain. So, newsflash, I pulled up a shrimp too. And so my cousin takes over from there at that point, because I am very clearly in pain. I basically like threw out my back at that point. And we head back we regroup. I find some videos, and then we head back out together, and I become a bit of a spotter. So I help him find the spots, and I look with him, and he does most of the digging. And I found our first few razor clams. But the signs for razor clams are much different than, well, I'm not going to say much different, that's not fair. They are different in a significant way than the little shrimp holes, but as a first timer, it's not obvious like at all until the tide starts going out. And so like for the first hour and a half that we were there, we didn't have a lot of luck because the tide was still up to where the little shrimpy holes were, and then the waves were sneaky. Like I was watching the ocean, and sometimes I would get distracted because I would get excited, and my cousin would be like, calling out like, oh, I think I got one, and I would go look, and then suddenly there's a wave there. So yeah, be careful if you go do something like that. The shore is so flat in Washington in a way that I'm not used to, that the water just freaking comes right up to you, man. And if you're not careful, that'll bowl you over, and can cause some damage if you're too far out, obviously. But anyways, we start creeping our way across the beach. We don't even realize how far we're going. It gets dark so fast. We get the headlamps going, and we're digging through the sand, and we finally find our first razor clams. So we're pumped, we're hyped. Every time we find a razor clam, it's like an adrenaline rush. It's just so exciting, and you feel victorious. You're like, oh my god, I can do this! It's real! in an interesting way. So like my cousin and I were just like jazzing each other up, like, oh, we got one! And I would hold them in the bag while he kept digging. So I would take care of like cleaning them and putting them in the bag. I had like a mesh bag to carry them around in. And we just kind of did that. We just went ahead and did that for like hours. And occasionally we would look up, and the beach is pitch dark, but there were so many people out on the beach at that point that it looked like the stars had come down onto the beach, because everybody had headlamps on, and that's all you could see of most people. Just them getting hit either on occasion by the light of somebody else's headlamp or flashlight, and then just like the twinkling white light. That's all you could see everywhere in the darkness. Everybody just looking for razor clams, and people were helping each other out. They would try to offer their best tips. A lot of people were first timers, but there was also like really experienced veterans. So towards the end of our excursion, we encountered a guy, an older gentleman who had already limited out, but he was helping other people find razor clams. And he had a big metal clam gun. A clam gun is like a tube. It's what we were using. It's a tube. His was a tube of metal attached to like a metal rod with handles on it. You push that into the sand, you plug it, because there's a release hole there, and you pull it up and you pull out the tube of sand. You check the sand for the clam, and it's the easiest way to both find and ideally dig up a razor clam before it digs away from you. And he was just like, you do it like this, you tap from the beach side, and you tap with your pole as you walk along, and you're gonna see a reaction in the sand. And just as he said, there was a reaction in the sand. This dude one-handed pushes the clam gun into the sand, pulls it up, there's a razor clam right there. And I'm just like flabbergasted. My cousin is also like in shock, because he is using all of his body strength to pull this tube out of the sand, which admittedly we didn't have the best clam gun, but for our first time when we didn't know what we were gonna do, it did actually admirable work. Long story short, or shorter, we ended up with 6 razor clams. A couple of them broke because it turns out they are exceedingly fragile. And then we took them home, and it was time to cook them all up. I'm not going to go into super details about that part, but it took me forever to fry them, because again, yes, we did the breaded and fried things. First time thing is just, most of the time it's probably going to be breaded and fried, unless it is actually cooked better a different way, at least at a campsite. But I had insane trouble with my little propane stuff. I remembered the propane this time, so I could actually use it. But I was fighting wind, I was fighting rain, I was fighting cold. And eventually it became this sort of group project where towards the end, because we just really wanted these things to cook, we all gathered around my propane stove like a little human wall, and like put blocks around its already set up windbreakers, and we just stayed there while I very carefully from above used tools to finish frying these clams. I was successful, by the way. We piled them all onto a plate, then we all went to the camper van, we all hid in there, enjoyed the heat while we all shared these clams, which turned out to be really, really delicious. Go figure. Fresh seafood tastes good. The flavor was, so I breaded these. I had 3 different breading styles. So I had a very, very basic style that I used on the diggers portion of the meat, where I just floured them. I rinsed them and I floured them up, and then that was it. Like, it was just to help them fry a bit better and be a bit crispier. And then for the other 2, I floured them. I rinsed them, I floured them, dipped them in egg, then rolled them in breadcrumbs. And I did fire roasted garlic breadcrumb from Kinder's and Parmesan herb breadcrumb from Kinder's, and then I fried that. And it all lent different flavors to it, which was really cool. But one of the coolest things about it was, it obviously it's harder to tell on the breaded stuff, but I could tell I was eating seafood, but it didn't taste fishy at all. Like, at all. It just tasted really good. I want to say almost like crab meat in the way that it was like, it had this sweetness to it, but obviously quite different. And then the plain ones that I made just as like a control variable so we could try the clam almost basically just as plain as you could make it, was very sweet. I was very surprised by that. Not like candy sweet, not sugar sweet, but it was a sweet meat. I don't know how else to describe it. Just a really sweet protein, but not in a bad way. It tasted really, really good. And so I ended up keeping one of the shells. Actually, let's see if I could get it. Sorry, knocked over my phone. But here's the shell. This is the shell of a razor clam. I kept one because their shells are actually really cool to me. They're very fragile. This one itself didn't quite make it home unscathed. You can see some damage along this side where like the keratin shell had peeled or cracked a little bit. Looks a little bit like a butterfly this way. But this was from a pretty small razor clam. And overall, the experience was just really cool. Would I do razor clamming again? Yes, but with better equipment and much more carefully. Do not underestimate the power of sand, because oh my god, was that heavy. In any case though, that was kind of like just the perfect end to the trip. We drove back home, we had some breakfast along the way, and then we got home yesterday, and I have spent all day yesterday, well, the rest of the day, I should say, after cleaning my laundry, just resting because my back was just, it was in a lot of pain, guys. And today I'm still feeling it, but not as much. I'm able to do a lot more. We're pretty sure it was just muscular, which is great, but it is going to take a while to to heal up. So I'm still on essentially light duty, which thankfully isn't hard because I work in an office. But that's probably going to be it for strenuous activities for a little while. So yeah. And then while I was in Seabrook, found myself yet another title that I'm going to check out. I don't have an opinion on this yet, but I've heard good things. So I'm very excited to read this and go on more adventures for foraging. One book I did want to share, maybe it should just be like an activity to do every time I do one of these, but Fruits of the Forest by Daniel Winkler is a very recent publication, and I picked it up because I actually liked how the summary was structured when I heard about it. It's a local interest book, but even the interior cover is made to be useful for you, or just like quick identification. And he goes into just more of the science behind mushrooms and focuses on edible mushrooms for the most part, as well as their lookalikes, things that you can mistake them for. And I've already got some more adventures planned that I'm very excited about. we'll see how I can manage to film if I'm allowed to, because some of these adventures will take place with as a result of working with a business to go like on the adventure, like an excursion or something like that. But already got some plans to go looking for things like morels and boletes, as well as even truffles. Very excited about that. So hopefully I get to do a little bit more and show you guys a bit more of that. As you can see, I still got a long way to go. Sorry, that's a bad indicator. That's the front. I still got a long way to read, but it's a lot of fun. He's really well researched, and I think my favorite part of the back, as a really big nerd, aside from the recipes, is that he gives you all of his references, and there are several pages of references, as well as a really thorough bibliography, which I'm definitely going to use to find yet more titles to add to my shelf, as well as a glossary for terms. So if you see terms in the book that you don't quite understand, he's got a solid glossary. So definitely recommend this if you're interested in edible mushrooms, especially in the Pacific Northwest. Again, my focus is the Pacific Northwest because that's just where I'm interested in foraging and learning about. But if you see any other books that you think I might find as a cool read, definitely let me know. In any case, yeah, that about covers my 2 trips. I know that was quite a long-winded story time. This is probably gonna end up being one of my longest videos so far. And hopefully I'll be able to kind of condense these down in the future and remember to actually film things so I don't have to explain everything in my forever storytelling way. But if you lasted this long, thank you so much. Enjoy the following disjointed clips and photos. And I'll see you guys on the next one. Bye-bye! Hey guys, we're out here in Toronto right now, and I can't do much of a vlog this time because I'm just with family this week, and I'm exploring something new. We're gonna try oyster gathering this time, and you wouldn't believe it, but I found one. I found a shanty. He's very tiny, but I'm pretty sure that's what he is. We're definitely gonna reconfirm this in a minute. But shortly above him, I found these as well. I couldn't tell if they were growing from the trees or the dirt, and so they're a bit more gilled. So I'm fairly sure they're not chanterelles, but we're gonna review them tonight, and whatever we're not sure of, we're gonna return to the forest. But I just wanted to show you guys, I did find one! I found one! Oh my gosh! Okay, I'll see you guys later. Bye! Watching some salmon climb the river. You guys might not be able to see it too well, but they're there. They're all clustered up. They're trying to figure out a way up, I think. Oh, there's too many of them there. Some of them are gonna have to move. Big, he's flopping out of the water. Oh, one found the way. There he goes. Go, buddy, go! He's got to jump that log, I think. Unless there's a way through.
I feel like he got stuck right there.
One of them just straight up stopped moving.
Where?
Like the furthest back. You see him? He's poking out the water.
Interesting.
I hope so. They got a long way to go before they get to their spawning ground. had my first night here in my car, and honestly, the hardest part was dealing with my dog. The sleeping bag I got is actually pretty comfortable. I've already changed into my day clothes for the day, but I've just kind of been resting in my sleeping bag because my dog made it next to impossible to get any quality rest. It was pretty rough. So as you can see, sun's coming up. It's probably around like 8 in the morning now, and this one is celebrating victory over me, and also just waiting for me to open the trunk because she heard people outside. She's just not used to it, so I guess I shouldn't have been surprised, but I can already tell where I can make improvements on my car camper anyways, and I'm looking forward to being home just to be able to decompress and actually get some sleep in an area my dog won't go crazy. So definitely lots of ways to improve this experience for the both of us, and I'm looking forward to the next attempt, especially as we get closer to Thanksgiving, which is when we have our big trip, which will find some clams. It'll be fun. But I'll tell you guys more about it once I get home. Bye! Here gathering razor clams, and you wouldn't believe it, but it's like 6:30 and it is dark as night out here. You can't even see the ocean coming in, which means you gotta be pretty careful. But so far we got ourselves 4. We're trying to get 5, keeping them moisturized while we finish our hunt. I don't think we're gonna reach our limit, but we're definitely gonna give it our best shot. So here we go. Go guys, we got ourselves a razor clam. We actually got quite a few. We got 6, and we're gonna cook these guys up and eat them. I'm gonna make some fried razor clams tonight for everybody to enjoy. I'm very excited to try these guys out. So proud.